Welcome to Pirkei Avot. We're still in chapter 5, and we're using the Sforno commentary. You can find it on artscroll.com, or you can get it for free on safaria.org. Just type in the search Pirkei Avot, and we're going to start in chapter 5, Mishnah 11. Before we start, I'd like to dedicate this shiur to Rav Bernstein and my mother, Iris Elizabeth Roque. Who would you like to dedicate this shiur to? Okay. May their memories be for a blessing. Let's keep it going. We got some more fours and numbers, and I'm just like, is this thing on? Because I'm not getting any comments on this. This stuff is like amazing. Okay. I know we're a small channel, but can we get some life out there? Okay, so let's go to Mishnah 11. There are 4 kinds of temperaments: easy to become angry and easy to be appeased. Easy to become angry and easy to become appeased. His gain disappears in his loss. Okay. Hard to become angry and hard to be appeased. His loss disappears in his gain. Hard to become angry and easy to be appeased. A pious person. Easy to become angry and hard to be appeased. A wicked person. All right, 4 types of temperament. Easy to become angry, easy to be appeased. His gain disappears in his loss. Hard to become angry and hard to be appeased. His loss disappears in his gain. Hard to become angry and easy to be appeased. A pious person. Easy to become angry and hard to be appeased. That's a wicked person. Let's go to Bartanora. Rav Bernstein says, this is the textual variant that we follow. A person who's easy to anger and easy to appease, his gain is canceled by his loss. A person who is hard to anger but also hard to appease, his loss is canceled by his gain. So a man who gets angry quickly about everything, even though he goes back and is quickly appeased, his loss is greater than his reward, as most of his deeds are spoiled, since he's easy to anger about each and everything. But if he is hard to anger, even though he has a bad trait in that he's hard to appease, his great reward is that he's hard to anger, and it cancels out his small loss in that he's hard to appease. And most of his deeds are refined. And some follow the variant that has the opposite, meaning the first variant seems more like the main one. Well, Sforno wants to jump in on this. And he says, okay, regarding these 4 types of temperament or atonement, after discussing character traits regarding the coveting of money, material possessions, and the opposite, the Tana now lists traits regarding wrath and anger. The term he uses to describe a person who's inclined towards bad traits is a mafsid, meaning he causes loss, while he who possesses bad traits is called a rasha, a wicked person. Both, however, have the option of correcting their attitudes, since these are natural traits which one can choose to rectify. All right, on to Mishnah 12. So there's 4 types of disciples. Students: quick to comprehend and quick to forget. His gain disappears in his loss. Slow to comprehend and slow to forget. His loss disappears in his gain. Quick to comprehend and slow to forget, he's a wise man. Slow to comprehend and quick to forget, this is an evil portion. Quick to comprehend, quick to forget, his gains disappear in his loss. Slow to comprehend, slow to forget, his loss disappears in his gain. Quick to comprehend, slow to forget, he's a wise man. Slow to comprehend and quick to forget, this is an evil portion. So Bartanora says, quick to understand and quick to forget, his gain is canceled by his loss. As since he forgets what he learns, what benefit is there in that which he's quick to understand? It comes out that his loss is greater than his gain. A student who is slow to understand and slow to forget, his loss is canceled by his gain, as the good trait in him exceeds the negative trait. since that which he understands after the difficulty, he remembers and doesn't forget. And what comes out from it? The practical difference is that if we have two students in front of us and we only have enough sustenance to support one of them, we prioritize the one that is slow to forget. That is, okay, so regarding the one that, let me see, slow to comprehend and quick to forget, this is an evil portion. So regarding Rav Bernstein, I want to talk about that bad portion. Regarding that kind of person, it would not be relevant to learn here, pious or evil, as this is not something that is dependent upon the choice of a person, but rather is a disadvantage that what was in him from the beginning of his creation. Wow. So that's just how he was made. Sforno says, let me talk about this, but let me get some tea first. I wish you could see it. It's like apples, and I got all kind of stuff floating in here. Can you see it? All natural. 4 types of students. So Sforno saying these are natural traits which cannot be altered and corrected through man's choice alone. However, one can control and limit the damage resulting from these natural tendencies through diligence and concentration, and by striving to improve and excel. Like an athlete, you can change your body and make it do things better than what, Therefore, he does not call the person who unfortunately is not blessed with intellectual abilities a rasha or a wicked man, for he doesn't have any option available. Rather, he terms his condition a bad portion, because this person was given this trait from heaven, and he'll have to try much harder to guard himself from the consequence of his fate. Wow. So you're gonna have to try harder to guard himself. So you got a bad portion. Here in Philly, we would say, man, either we'll say 2 things. He caught a bad one, or he got a bad John. It's a little Philly slang for you got a bad John. Okay. Rav Pelkovitz says, the Sforno, Rav Pelkovitz always expounds more on what the Sforno said to just make it more everyday man language. Everyday man's language. The Sforno carefully differentiates between various phrases used in these Mishnayot. Loss, a wicked person, a bad portion. The first time loss is applicable to one who has a tendency toward bad traits, whereas the second term, a wicked person, describes one who possesses bad traits, be it in the area of material possessions or emotions. However, these failings can be rectified more readily in the former cases when there's only a tendency. The latter, where the person already possesses these character traits. But the term bad portion used in this Mishnah describes a person's weak intellectual capacities for which he cannot be faulted. Nonetheless, one can attempt to practice damage control and make the best of a bad portion or a bad lot. All right, next Mishnah, Mishnah 13. These are 4 types of charity givers. He who wishes to give, but that others should not give. His eye is evil to that which belongs to others. He who wishes that others should give, but that he himself should not give. His eye is evil towards that which is his own. He who desires that he himself should give and that others should give, he's a pious man. And the 4th, he who desires that he himself should not give and that others too should not give, he's a wicked man. We need to break that out, because that is, So Rav Bernstein said, okay, regarding these 4 temperaments amongst givers of charity, meaning to say in the giving of charity and not literally amongst givers of charity, like how they give the charity is what this Tana is looking at. As behold, there is among them one who does not give. And so too in the adjacent Mishnah, among those who attend the house of study is meaning the ones that actually go to the house of study. So when it talks about, Rav Bernstein wants to tell us when it talks about he has an evil eye with respect to others, as it is known that giving charity makes one wealthy, and he does not want others to get wealthy. But another explanation is there exists one who is concerned about the money of his relatives more than about his own money. And even though he gives, he doesn't want his relatives to give so that they don't lose their money. And this explanation makes He has an evil eye with respect to others, similar to he has an evil eye with respect to himself at the end of this part of the Mishnah. So Sforno was like, my turn. Okay, let's talk about these 4 types of donors to charity. Behold, the expression an evil eye represents the trait of begrudging. That is one who finds it difficult to accept another's good fortune. Now, this is not because he hates him, but because he desires to humble him so that he should be subservient to him. This explains why in verse Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 9 in Devarim, when it says, the 7th year approaches and your eye be evil, means you look malevolently. It's written in the Parashah section of the Tzedakah of charity, rather than in the Parashah of remission of loans. For the verse's meaning is thus: one may think that since the 7th sabbatical year is rapidly approaching, when all the grain and fruits will come and be ownerless, all the loans will be canceled, and the poor man will not have to repay his debt. Therefore, the giving of charity in the donor's eyes is viewed as a superfluous supplement. So the sabbatical year, the Shemitah year, let me see. The Shemitah year, the 7th year, that's the year that you can take, you can eat your fill. Everybody can eat your fill. Your land is not yours. It's resting. You kind of give it back to Hashem. So you'll say, somebody will say, well, this is the year that I let my land go. So the poor people going to eat anyway. So why should I give charity? They're going to eat. So he's like, that's not good. This explains why your eyes are evil as the Shemitah year approaches. You think, oh, I don't have to turn my little help the poor people out, my little tithe or my charity, not tithe, but my charity. They don't need my charity because they're going to eat anyway on that last year. That's evil eye. Therefore, this wise teacher, the Tana of the Mishnah, states that one who is willing to give charity to a poor person but is bothered by the fact that after the poor man received his gift, he'll also receive gifts from others. I'm not going to give him any money. Somebody else, other people are going to give him money. Why should I give him money? So, but he's bothered by the fact that the poor man received his gift, he'll also get gifts from others. That person has an evil eye. Do not, however, condemn this giver and consider him to be a cruel person. Rather, he suffers from an evil eye. He begrudges the poor man receiving additional charity from others. I have done that myself. So I'm like, I'm not giving this person whatever he get from there. And then when he gets it, why did they give it to him? He shouldn't have gotten that. He's just going to take it and use it for this, or she's just going to take it and use it for that. And the point is, that's not for you to judge, and you got an evil eye because you got some issues. You don't like to see other people, whatever, get gain. Similarly, when others give and he does not, it is also due to his evil eye, for he resents the poor man receiving an additional gift from him after having received it from others. However, when he wants others to give in addition to his own giving, he should be judged meritoriously, with merit. For his desire is not only that the poor man benefit, but also that the other merit the mitzvah of charity. The others will merit the mitzvah of charity. Hence, he is correctly called a pious man, or a hasid, and not just a righteous man or a tzaddik. Wow. However, if one does not give, nor can he abide that others give, he should not be judged as being motivated by his concern for them and the conservation of their money. Rather, in this case, he should be judged as a wicked person who is cruel to the poor and despises and rejects the mitzvah of charity. Rav Pelkovitz wants to weigh in. Let me just clear up some of the things Rav Sforno was saying. Sforno explains the 3 terms used by the Tana to describe the 4 types of donors to charity. He focuses first on the expression, which is literally he possesses an evil eye, referring to one who begrudges others. Why is this phrase used by the Tana regarding the first 2 types? And why is the third one called a hasid or pious, while the last one is called a rasha or wicked? Well, our sages choose their words very carefully. The Sforno calls our attention to the fact that the expression he begrudges is based on Deuteronomy 15:9. The verse refers to a person who is reluctant to help his fellow Jew because the sabbatical year is approaching. Therefore, he feels justified in not giving. However, this presents a difficulty, for that segment in the Torah deals with tzedakah, charity. If so, what is its connection to the Shemitah? Would it not have been, Shemitah is the 7th year, would it, the year of rest, let the land rest, would it not have been more reasonable to place these verses in the previous section, 15:2, in Deuteronomy, which discusses the cancellation of debts at the end of the sabbatical year or the Shemitah year? Well, the Sforno explains that the intent of our Tana is to answer the question, the Torah is concerned lest there be those who normally are willing to give charity, but are reluctant to do so if the other recipient has other resources, such as during the sabbatical year when he, the poor person, has access to the produce in the fields and orchards, and when his debts are canceled as well. His other resources. Why should I give? The donor is bothered by the fact that the recipient will overly benefit. This type of giver is one whose nature is a begrudging one, be it as manifested in the first case or the second. However, one who not only gives, but is anxious that others have the opportunity to do so as well, is called a hasid. For a pious, saintly person is precisely that. One who is concerned for others, be it for the material benefit of the recipient or the spiritual benefit of the donor. The concluding type is rightfully called rasha, the wicked person, for not only does he not give himself, but he also impedes others from giving due to his callous character. Look how the poor person receives, that's his material benefit, and the donor that gives, that's his spiritual benefit. Look how that relationship works there. And then if that poor person gives to somebody worse than him, because now he's become rich to another person, and we're all rich to when you are in reference to another person. That poor person, he gives from what he has. That person that's poorer than him has benefited materially, and he has benefited spiritually. And the chain keeps going. Mishnah 14. We're still in the 4s. There's 4 types among those who frequent the study house, the Beit Midrash. He who attends but doesn't practice. So this is where you find the wise men studying and really toiling over the Torah and finding new ideas or maybe ways they didn't understand it. He who attends but does not practice, he receives a reward for his attendance. He who practices but does not attend, he receives a reward for practice. He who attends and practices, he's a pious man. He who neither attends nor practices, he's a wicked man. He who attends but doesn't practice, he receives a reward for attendance. He who practices but does not attend, he receives a reward for his practice. He who attends and practices is pious, and he who does neither is wicked, or rasha. Bartanura said, okay, let's talk about the one who goes to the Beit Midrash to study, but he doesn't do anything. So he goes to the house of study to listen, but he does not review or study and does not understand. Okay, so the one that does things, he puts it into practice, but doesn't go. So he studies and reviews in the house of study, which is in his own home. He just doesn't go to the community one. Sforno says, okay, look, about these 4 types of guys, the Tana teaches that by going to the house of study, one gains merit. For he honors the Torah and the one who gave it by exerting himself to go and seek it out in the meeting place. By going and doing, meaning learning, the doing is learning, and participating in the Torah study there with his companions. He also performs a kindness by increasing his wisdom as well as theirs. As our sages teaches us, and from my companions more so than from my teachers, I learn, basically. Tanit 7a. Therefore, he is called a pious individual, while the converse is called a rasha, a wicked. Okay, Mishnah 15. So again, 4 types among those who sit before the sages. So you got a group of wise men and they're speaking. You got 4 people that's sitting receiving the information. You get the first one, a sponge. The next one, a funnel. The next one, a strainer. And the fourth one, a sieve. Sponge, a funnel, a strainer, and a sieve. A sponge soaks up everything. A funnel takes in at one end and lets out at the other. A strainer, which lets out the wine and retains the lees. I don't know if that sounds pretty bad. Like, I don't know, maybe that's great. I don't know. A sieve, which lets out the coarse meal and retains the choice flour. So Rav Bernstein is going to help us out. So regarding the idea of people that sit in front of the sages to receive information, earlier with the 4 temperaments amongst the students, it was speaking about the topic of memory and forgetting. And now it's speaking about the topic of proper analysis and separating the thing that is right from that which is not right. So that's what it's talking about now. So the sponge, it absorbs the water, whether it's muddy or clear. So too, there is one whose heart is broad and receives everything that he hears, but he doesn't have the ability to separate the truth from the falsehood. The funnel student is a vessel that is put at the opening of a barrel or at the opening of a pouch when one wants to fill it with wine or oil. Because it lets in at one end and out the other, so too there is one who receives everything that he learns. But in the way that he absorbs it, so does he relinquish it out the other end. The strainer, he lets out all that he's heard in the house of study and collects a wasteful matter. So the stuff that's left in the strainer, he got all the stuff that it doesn't mean anything. The person that's a sieve, after we take out the bran and bruised grain from the ground flour, the inferior powdery flour is left with the coarse fine flour, and the latter is the more important one. We pass it through a very fine sieve, and all of the powdery flour, which is like white dust, falls from it, and the coarse important flour remains. And so would they do with grain offerings. So too, there is one who has the ability to separate and to cleanse his teachings and take the truth from the false and wasteful. So the Sforno says, my turn. So the Tana is discussing a number of natural, intellectual, and individual traits, some of which deter a man from grasping true knowledge. He teaches us this so that one will attempt to correct these shortcomings in such a manner that will ultimately permit him to reach the 4th level, that of the sieve, which examines and selects the good from the bad. He'll then retain the quality part in the subject matter studied and rid himself of the bad sediments and remove them from his heart. This is akin to the Talmudic description of Rabbi Meir. Let's change this. Oops. Rabbi Meir, it says in Hagigah 15b that he found a pomegranate. He ate the fruit within it and threw away the peel. So Rav Pelkovitz wants to expound a bit. He says, look, regarding these 4 types of students that sit before the sages, not all that the student hears is worth retaining and storing in his storehouse of knowledge. He must be discriminating and discerning. The 4th type of student discussed in our Mishnah is compared to a sieve, which is used to sift flour in Mishnaic times. The finest flour remained in the sieve while the flour dust fell out through the perforations. Likewise, the selective student retains the essential principles of wisdom while discarding the unessential, rather than cluttering up his mind with useless information. The Talmudic citation of the Sforno refers to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir was a pupil of Archer, who was Elisha ben Abuya. This great scholar unfortunately departed from the ways of Torah, and he was ostracized by his colleagues who forbade students from studying with him. Well, however, despite the ban, Rabbi Meir continued his association with his Rebbe. To justify Rabbi Meir's actions, the Talmud explains that he had the intellectual and spiritual strength to accept Archer's Torah instruction while remaining immune to his heretical beliefs. The former is compared to the fruit of the pomegranate and the latter to the peel. So that's how Rav Pelkovitz helps us understand that. Our final Mishnah. All love that depends on something, when the thing ceases, the love ceases. And all love that does not depend on anything will never cease. What is an example of love that depended on something? Such was the love of Amnon for Tamar. And what is an example of love that did not depend on anything? Such was the love of David and Jonathan. Rav Bernstein says, any love that's dependent on something is transient. Any love that is dependent on something transient, that doesn't last. When the thing that was the cause for the love perishes, the love will also perish. But any love that is not dependent on something transient, but rather on something lasting, for example, the love of the righteous men and the sages, that never perishes. In the same way that the thing which is the cause of that love does not perish, so too does the love not perish. Now, regarding the love of Amnon and Tamar, that was Amnon loved her. This kind of love was because of her beauty. The love of David and Jonathan, which was to fulfill the will of their maker, as Jonathan said to David, you will be the king over Israel and I will be your second. Now, Sforno wants to talk about it too. The Sforno says, love is considered dependent upon a specific cause, when it's dependent upon something other than the love of the beloved one. This means that the lover hopes to obtain something by way of his love, and were it not for this ulterior motive, his love would not exist. On the other hand, love that does not depend upon a specific cause, it means any love that does not depend upon a specific cause, it means that it is evoked exclusively by the feeling on the part of the lover that his beloved one is worthy of this emotion and is unrelated to any factor beyond the beloved one. That is true love, which will never cease. Rav Pelkovitz wants to expound a little bit more on that. Amnon's love for Tamar, his love for her, was lustful, and as soon as his desire was fulfilled and his appetite was appeased, he despised her. For as the commentators point out, he loved himself and not her. This is what the Sforno is referring to when he says that it was dependent upon something other than the love of the beloved one. Hence, this is a fitting example of dependent upon a specific cause. In contrast, the love of David and Jonathan was altruistic and honest, for Jonathan knew that David was destined to deny him the royal succession, yet his love did not wane. This is what the Sforno describes as love, unaffected by external considerations and unrelated to any factors beyond the beloved one. Jonathan knew King Saul was his father, and he knew that it was appointed to David to become king. And Jonathan, he could have said, you know what? No, I want to be next in line. It's my right, my father, whatever. But he doesn't. He says, David, you're going to be king. You have my allegiance. I love you so much. That had nothing to do with his love, and it didn't affect the way he looked at David as his friend. This is amazing friendship there. So that is the end of our Mishnayot. We have a few Mishnayot left for chapter 5. So stay tuned as we continue on. I hope you're enjoying the numbers, the complexity, as our sages are now lining out and bringing relationships into view. Now they're comparing, contrasting things, and we see that they are not just speaking because they feel like speaking, but they actually have experience in a lot of these. As we saw with that the one rabbi who got ostracized, but yet his student loved him so much that he wanted to continue on with him. And they said the student knew how to take out the good and throw away the bad. So these sages it's real life. We go through this stuff every day. That's why we need Musa, a constant ethical ethical ethics. We need it constantly in our lives. So thank you for joining. come again for the next one. Please pass this along. Everyone needs musar and ethical teaching. So I hope to see you next time as we finish up chapter 5 from Pirkei Avot.